In the late 1960s and early 70s, the Trans Am series became the ultimate battleground for America's pony cars. Mustangs, Camaros, Javelins, Challengers, and more, fighting for glory on legendary road courses. Today, that same spirit of competition lives on in 1/24th scale, right here at Pelican Park Speedway. This presentation takes us on a journey through Trans Am history and into the heart of a modern 1/24th slot car race, where the past meets the present in miniature. If you'd rather skip the history, jump ahead in the presentation for the race coverage, complete with results, grids, and car close-ups.
During the 1960s, car manufacturers recognized a powerful demographic shift. The baby boomers were coming of age, bringing enormous buying potential. Detroit saw the opportunity to market to this generation with horsepower, speed, and the excitement of racing. Sales charts and race win tallies rose in tandem, proving the old adage, win on Sunday, sell on Monday.
The Trans Am series launched in 1966 as a manufacturer's championship. In 1966, Ford secured the title with the Shelby Racing Team, supported by independent Mustang entries. In 1967, Ford repeated, again led by Shelby, but faced stiffer competition. A new force had arrived, Roger Penske Racing. Penske's brilliantly prepared Camaros dominated in 1968 and 1969. The title then shifted back to Ford in 1970 with Bud Moore-prepared Mustangs. Penske switched allegiances from GM to AMC, and after a year developing the car, led his Javelins to championships in 1971 and 1972.
Now let's look at Trans Am in more detail. Ford entered the Trans Am in 1966, relying mostly on privateer Mustangs, McComb, Booker, Yeager-Johnson, Talbert, and others. These were Shelby-prepared Group 2 notchbacks sold to racers but campaigned independently. Shelby American itself appeared officially only once, at Riverside, where Jerry Titus scored an overall victory. Combined with the privateer points, that single win was enough for Ford to capture the manufacturer's championship. In 1967, Ford repeated as champion under Shelby Racing, again with Titus at the wheel. The Mustangs' liveries evolved that season, from plain white with blue stripes to pale yellow Terlingüia Racing Team colors, and finally to the bright orange Shelby Racing Co. scheme. But the competition was heating up. Mercury's Cougar and Penske's Sunoco Camaro both entered the fight in 1967. That year marked the end of Ford's early dominance, which would not return until 1970, when Bud Moore Engineering guided the Mustangs to Ford's final Trans Am manufacturer's title. More on that later. In 1967, Mercury launched a fully supported two-car Cougar effort managed by Bud Moore Engineering with drivers Dan Gurney and Peter Revson. The team won 3 races and nearly snatched the title from Ford, falling short by just a few points. Despite the promise, Mercury withdrew after only 1 season, and the Cougars disappeared from Trans Am contention. Also in 1967, Roger Penske entered with Sunoco sponsorship and quiet factory backing. Mark Donohue was the lead driver, while the second car was shared by Craig Fisher, Sam Posey, Ed Leslie, Ronnie Bucknam, and others. The team grew stronger throughout the season, claiming its first win at Marlboro, round 7. Donohue then won the last 2 races, Las Vegas and Kent, Washington. Ford, alarmed by Penske's momentum, introduced a new tunnel port 302. On paper, it promised high RPM power, but in practice, it suffered from poor low-end torque and frequent engine failures. By season's end, the design was abandoned in favor of a more traditional approach. By 1968, Penske's Camaros were nearly unbeatable, winning 10 of 13 events and easily claiming the manufacturer's title. In 1968, AMC fielded its first factory Javelin effort, run by private contractor RKE, with George Fulmer and Peter Revson driving.
The program showed flashes of promise, but lacked factory knowledge and soon unraveled.
1969 was no cakewalk for Penske's Camaros. Ford, now under Bud Moore, with drivers Parnelli Jones and George Follmer, won 4 of the first 5 races. But Penske's team fought back, sweeping the last 7 events and securing Chevrolet another manufacturer's title.
1970 was a year of transition in Trans Am racing. Penske switched from Chevrolet to a new factory-backed Javelin program, while Jim Hall assumed control of the Chevrolet effort, a story we'll revisit later. Penske's Javelins and Bud Moore's mustard yellow Mustangs, driven by Parnelli Jones and George Follmer, battled fiercely for supremacy. In the end, the Mustangs prevailed, and Ford secured the manufacturer's championship.
In 1970, Chevrolet's Camaro effort shifted to Jim Hall's and his Chaparral team. Despite great-looking cars, they scored only a single win, Watkins Glen with Vic Elford. The Chaparral program suffered from the loss of Penske's expertise, the burden of developing a new, heavier Camaro, Firestone tires that lagged behind Goodyear, and persistent reliability issues.
1970 also marked Chrysler's factory debut with 2 programs. The AAR Plymouth Barracudas, led by Dan Gurney and Swede Savage, struggled, managing only a 4th and 5th place at best. The Autodynamics Dodge Challengers fared a bit better, finishing the season with 3 podiums plus several top 6 finishes. Despite the investment, both programs were shut down after the 1970 season.
In 1971, Penske and Donohue delivered AMC's first manufacturer's championship, winning 7 races. Ford Mustangs remained competitive, with Follmer notching wins at Briar, Mid-Ohio, and Riverside, but AMC's consistency carried the year. In 1972, with Penske departing, AMC transferred the Javelin program to Roy Woods Racing. George Follmer became the lead driver, winning at least 4 events and cruising to another title. With Ford, Chevy, and Chrysler gone, AMC dominated the final factory-supported Trans Am season.
Over the years, I've built slot car replicas of many of my favorite Trans Am cars. Here are a few from my collection. My entry in tonight's contest is the Firebird Trans Am. Now, I'll turn it over to the race announcers.
Welcome to Pelican Park Speedway in Eugene, Oregon, home of hard-body slot car racing since 1989. This week's feature is the always popular early Trans Am class, raced with 1/24th or 1/25th scale plastic model bodies on scratch-built inline brass and wire chassis. Fast, challenging, and always a thrill to drive. With 11 racers, the win-to-get-in qualifying format was used. This system sets up 8 heats, with each heat winner advancing directly into the top 8. After each win, the field is reduced by 1 until all 8 spots are filled. Only those 8 racers earn a chance at the main event. The rest are relegated to the hooligan. As expected, the cream rose to the top. Cully, Basil, Gary Kay, and James each won their opening heats and secured early spots in the top 8. The remaining 7 racers battled in the last 4 heats for the final places. Making it through were Gary T., Rich, Greg, and Paul, completing the top 8 field. With qualifying complete, the semi-mains would decide who advanced. The top 8 were split into 2 groups of 4, with the top 2 from each race moving on to the main, while the others dropped to the consolation. In Semi 1, Cully took control early. The real battle was for second between Basil and Rich. After trading positions and contact in the lead-on, Basil secured the final transfer. Cully and Basil advanced, while Rich and Greg went to the consolation. Semi 2 was just as dramatic. James led throughout, leaving the 2 Garys to fight for the last transfer. On the final corner of the final lap, Gary K slipped past Gary T to claim the spot. James and Gary K moved on, while Gary T and Paul were relegated to the consolation. The consolation race followed. Gary T dominated up front, while the real battle was for second. Rich held the spot most of the way, but Paul closed in late and after the power cut, coasted past Rich to take second. The hooligan race was marred by heavy wrecks. Chris's Barracuda lost its rear end, and Greg's Mustang took front end damage. Marshall scrambled constantly to keep cars on track. Despite the chaos, the fight for the win came down to Greg and Kevin in a back-and-forth duel, with Greg ultimately prevailing. The main event started with a bang as Basil and Gary K tangled in the opening corner. James grabbed the early lead with Cully in second. Mid-race, Gary K charged past Cully and began reeling in James. The two battled wheel to wheel to the finish. Gary K slipped by in the penultimate turn, but James reclaimed the lead just before the line.
Thanks to the Pelican Park crew for another great night of competition and fun. I'll definitely be back. For those watching, don't forget to check out the suggested videos and subscribe to the channel for more racing action.